Hey, how did Jehovah not know? This is an open question for Jehovah's Witnesses. Where was Jehovah? I'd like to hear an answer from a Jehovah's Witness, but before you answer that question, was Jehovah?
Hey, how you doing? It's good to see you. Hi, guys. Sit down.
Hi guys, sit down, and I hope you're enjoying your favorite beverage. And we're going to talk. How Jesse, the elders always say, Jehovah's watching. Jehovah's watching. He knows everything. Yeah. Well, I hope Jehovah. I hope Jehovah's watching today.
Yeah, I hope Jehovah's watching.
Because today on the Gateway Pundit, where was Jehovah? The Gateway Pundit, the report, and it's on Yahoo News, MSNBC, all the major news agencies are talking about similar things to this. You've seen it Monday where Fauci was with Congress. Killer Fauci. On March 16th of the year 2020, Dr. Fauci received emails cheering hydroxychloroquine treatment of COVID in China. 4 days later, he publicly rebuked President Trump at the White House presser for suggesting it a valid COVID treatment. So they'll say, Jesse, Gilbert, you guys are not doctors. We're not talking medicine. We're talking about something bigger. And it's where was Jehovah? Did you Jesse? I mean, did you see that?
Yeah, I called you on that this morning. I called you that on this morning, and you hadn't seen it in the news, and you called me back a little bit later on lunchtime. You go, oh, okay, now I understand, because there's a lot of news articles that are talking about this. Mm-hmm. The New York Times, different news articles, not just right-wing publications. Mm-hmm. A lot of our Democrat brothers' newspapers are talking about it.
Yeah.
So you have Democrat newspapers. Yeah.
In London as well, in England, in Europe.
UK Telegraph. Mm-hmm. So people will say, "Hey, you guys are just reading right-wing news." No, we're reading your communist newspaper, rags, and it's all over it. They're coming out of the woodworks.
So explain this to people. What is this article trying to tell you in layman's terms?
Well, let's just establish this. We're coming up on the anniversary of our brother's death, our big brother.
Correct.
Next month. He died on July 4th. And sometimes I get melancholy. I miss my brother. I love my brother Joe eternally. He was named after my father, and I named my son after him. But when he had COVID, or when he died, we don't know why he died. We know he was in hospice care. We just got a phone call and said he's dead. And Nigel Farage, Prime Minister of Europe, from Great Britain, when he talks about men protesting or men lashing out, he says when you take a man's freedom, when you take a man's dignity, when you take away everything, all he has left is to protest. All he has left is to lash out. This is a prime minister speaking. In the streets, say, when you corner a dog, what does the dog have? All he has left is his bite. Mm-hmm. You corner a dog, he's going to bite you. And that's what Jehovah has done to us, Jehovah's Witnesses. They've taken away our families. They've taken away everything. Mark Deanda, Paul Deanda, Annabelle, our sister. And so all we have now is to lash out in this form on social media, because they won't call us. Our brother died. We don't even know. He's our big brother. We're his little brothers. And he's in hospice care. And I was explaining to you, Gilbert, that even demons don't treat people like this. Even evil people don't treat. Like, for instance, let's say we were living in the Old West. We live in Yuma. I live in Yuma. We have the Western atmosphere, the Western culture, and we remember the territorial days. If they were going to hang a man back in the territorial days, and they take him out to the gallows by the 310 to Yuma out here by the railroad, and they take him out to the river, and they say, when they put a rope around him in the gallows, what does the hangman say? Any last words? Mm-hmm. Any last words? Even condemned men have last words. Jehovah doesn't even give us that with our families. We can't even have a last word. Think about that. The disgusting Jehovah's Witnesses, disgusting pigs, their greed to have eternal life with Jehovah, that they won't even give their little brothers not even one spoken word. They have all of eternity, all of eternity. And along comes karma with this article. They have all of eternity with their God, who knows everything, everything about Alpha Centauri and the Pleiades and all the red shifting of the stars and the moons and the galaxies. And God, and their Jehovah could not tell them that there was myocarditis in the Jabby Yabby. They couldn't tell them about the danger. Jehovah, who's politically neutral. Jehovah, who's politically neutral. He couldn't sit this one out. He couldn't be politically neutral on the jab. He's politically neutral on everything. On abortion. You name every problem that faces mankind, Jehovah's neutral. He couldn't remain neutral on this.
He wasn't neutral. He picked a side.
He's a communist, a Marxist, yes.
And like, for example, here, so Fauci is cheering, saying, yes, hydroxychloroquine is great. But then Fauci gets the tap on the shoulder from his superior, says, no, we're going to let these people get sick. So then he's against hydroxychloroquine when Donald Trump is for it. So all we're saying is, how did Jehovah not know this? Why is it that the reporters like the Gateway Pundit or UK Telegraph, how is it that they are uncovering and Jehovah did not uncover this? Where was Jehovah? So it was everybody in like African and Latin American countries would buy this drug for 25 cents. The other one, the ivermectin, guy gets a Nobel Peace Prize, 25 cents. Jehovah didn't know about this, and then all of a sudden, you're not supposed to take it?
Gilbert.
But now, hold on, now Dr. McCullough, who invented the damn mRNA thing, he's selling that drug. So what I'm saying is, going back to what you're saying, Jehovah did not know these things, and yet he directed his organization instead to take a drug that was thousands and thousands of dollars per shot, and instead of taking the Nobel Peace Prize pill that cost 25 cents, and he didn't know it.
Here's another thing. They were, I remember it very clearly, it was in the summer of 2021, when the vaccine started to roll out. All of us who were listening to alternative media, as long as you didn't listen to CNN or Telemundo or any communist New York Times, anything, you knew about hydroxychloroquine. We were all talking about it. Then Dr. Fauci went like this when Donald Trump was speaking, making him look like a stupid idiot. In essence, calling all of us stupid idiots, conspiracy theorists. I remember when I got COVID, I had it. I went down to Mexico, got some hydroxychloroquine, took it. I was sick for like 20 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
And
but see, the point is, Jesse, is that, like you mentioned earlier correctly, that God created the Pleiades, Alpha Centauri. This is what Jehovah's Witnesses are preaching. But their God was not able to find this out, but these reporters are able to find out this information, and it's plastered all over right now. Yahoo News, MSN.
It's everywhere. It's everywhere. Do a news article. Do a news article on the consequences of the Jabby Yabby. It's everywhere. People are coming out. They're talking about it. And Jehovah couldn't figure it out.
Mm-hmm.
Jehovah was listening to Dr. Fauci. He wasn't listening to any other real science.
And here's proof. So you sent me this picture of Watchtower in the jw.org is talking about increasing today. But you type in on the search myocarditis, And the last time Watchtower mentioned myocarditis was in 1971. But
Yeah.
you go to Google DuckDuckGo and type in myocarditis, and Google's going to tell you about it. I mean, and they're left wing as it comes.
Jehovah's not
MSN
neutral. Jehovah's not neutral. He's a one-way street. He's a communist, Marxist. Look, he writes down that they advocate for the jabby yabby. They want all the good, but they don't want none of the bad. They talk about that you won't be able to have, if you don't take it, you're not going to be able to go to the circuit overseer. You're not going to go out in service with the circuit overseer. You're not going to go to the convention. Everything that they preached about it. Well, why don't they preach about the consequences, that there's a risk of myocarditis and pericarditis in certain age groups? Why do they only preach the good and not the bad? And then they can't even get it right about how to beat COVID, but they're going to tell us that Armageddon is going to save them. They want to tell us everything about their interpretation of Revelation in their district convention this year, when they couldn't even get COVID-19 right.
Wow.
Think about that. God is going to reveal to them all of the information from the last 2,000 years since John the Revelator got the revelation, but they couldn't get the connection on COVID-19 right.
That's the question. So how would you? Yeah. So that's the question we have for Jehovah's Witness, the open question. So let's. Yeah. Let me. What I'm doing is I'm trying to
consolidate it into one simple question. Jehovah's going to tell us about Armageddon when he couldn't get COVID-19 right. So let's say COVID-19 was made in some factory over there in China. Jehovah couldn't tell us that.
Okay. So in this picture right there, the last time Jehovah talked about myocarditis was in 1971. And while you were talking, I went on DuckDuckGo and I just typed in the word myocarditis.
Did you do a news in the news?
This is what the news on DuckDuckGo says while you were talking just a while ago. I pulled it up.
Just the news, the Courier Mail, Health,
documented in vaccinated group, and 100% of the people that show up at Bethel at their annual meetings and their Gilead graduations, according to Mark Sanderson, are fully compliant with the government regulations. So he said that. Those are his words. So you need to tell me, Mark Sanderson, that Jehovah did not know about this? What about, who's the second one from Courier Mail? COVID vaccines may have contributed to the rise in excess deaths. Jehovah did not know about this? Is this what you're saying?
See, there's a danger. They're receiving karma. And this is their danger of using the divine name in their prophesizing. They're so blinded with their hate of the world and everybody else outside of their organization that they're able to fall into these traps. They poison their entire religion.
Well, Jesse, look at the last. Go ahead.
No, they can't talk about it. They can't talk about it because all they talk about is they're a cult, a major cult. You can't question their organization or their leadership. And it took them down a wrong course. So naturally, they can't talk about this no more. It's like you said, they're like those Hollywood people. This never happened. They're living their lives like this never happened.
Well, Cat Williams talks about the people in Hollywood. They walk around, pretend that it didn't happen, that they were raped to get the job. And they're like, no, it didn't happen.
But here's the problem. The Jehovah's Witnesses use the word Jehovah. They introduced Jehovah into the wearing of the mask, the social distancing, the listening to the World Health Organization, the CDC. They chose sides, and they chose not to listen to anybody else. They were not neutral. If they were neutral, they would have listened to alternative voices. Maybe they would have had a little bit of instinct, a little bit of logic, and protected their bodies. Maybe they could have listened. Yeah.
What you just said right there leads to the last news article that says the commissioner finds risk from COVID vaccine not clearly communicated to man who later died. So if we just change a few words, that the Jehovah's Witness apostates are finding out that the risks from the COVID vaccines were not clearly communicated to the Jehovah's Witnesses by the governing body, those who had died. And in January of this year, I did that video. Remember, we added Mark Fletcher to the list, who died. And so, and there's our brother Joe. We don't know.
We don't know.
Yeah, we don't know. And so, but that's what the last one is us apostates are finding out that the governing body never told any Jehovah's Witness about the risks that were involved. They just said, obey the government.
Now do you see why they have to talk? They're going back to end times religion in their convention. Now do you see they have to wag the dog? They know they stepped on it big time. They know there could be class action lawsuits. Oh my God. Nobody knows what's going to happen. When people find out, look, you go to somewhere in anywhere, materialistic world, okay? You go out there into the Home Depot parking lot or the mall parking lot and you scratch somebody's brand new car. What will they do to your face? They'll kill you. But when they find out, imagine that they got infected. Imagine what's going to happen. Imagine how angry they're going to be. If they come up with myocarditis or pericarditis or one of their loved ones, naturally they're going to feel betrayed. Now, here's the thing. There are detoxifying agents. There are detoxifying therapies. But the Jehovah's Witnesses will never know because they're not allowed to hear alternative voices. Because they're
all of
governing.
this big deviance is all catching hell.
You can hear that? Can you hear that?
It don't matter if you did
I'm sorry.
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
No.
all lies will be.
I was just trying to find that. I don't have that. I got to get that skit where Cat Williams says they all walk around like it didn't happen. Now, some of you that are saying, Gilbert, you're crazy for saying, years ago that Watchtower is part of the new world. Now this isn't so crazy, isn't it? It's not so crazy anymore. When you look at this Bible, the scriptures translated for the new world, it's not so crazy, is it?
And you know what, Gilbert? They hate us so much, like our brother Joe, our dear beloved brother who died. They hate us so much that they will commit suicide. They hate us so much they'll poison their body. They'll poison their mind. They'll reject everybody. They hate us so much they'll shun us because just being around them, we are toxic. We're toxic humanity. You know how the women, they talk about toxic masculinity and all that shit? Well, we're toxic humans to them. They hate us so much, Gilbert. They'll go and injure themselves bodily and spiritually.
You know that you're not the only one that said that?
If you let your hatred for Donald Trump, not just about Trump, if you let your hatred for Donald Trump compromise your ability to find true north on your moral compass, shame on you. If you let your disgust for Biden make you blind to the inevitable consequences of pursuing revenge, then God help the children who will inherit the dystopian nightmare we create.
That's what you're talking about.
And that's what I'm saying.
They hate Donald Trump so much, like the Jehovah's Witnesses hate the apostates so much, that they can't tell what north and south is.
And we run the risk too. If we hate Joe Biden so much, we run the risk of being vengeful. We need to be like our brother Abraham Lincoln and Ulysses S. Grant, who understood real peace and forgiveness. We have to be like John F. Kennedy. We have to be like Robert F. Kennedy Sr. when he says, is everybody okay? When he was shot, he was about to die. He was more concerned about everybody around him. That's what we have to be. We can't be consumed with hate. But right now we're talking about our brothers. They're so consumed with hate, they'll actually fall into bodily harm because they won't listen to any voices.
Correct. So, look, they're so consumed with hate that you're telling a Jehovah's Witness, this is what you're saying. Today, right now on jw.org. But the last time you mentioned myocarditis was 1971. But it's all over the news today in liberal, conservative websites all across the globe. This is what everyone's talking about. But Jehovah, where's Jehovah? He has not talked about this subject since 1971. And that's all we're saying. We're not picking a side or anything. We're just saying, where is this God that you worship?
Well, let me play devil's advocate. They haven't talked about myocarditis since 1971. You got to forgive the Jehovah's Witness because they only get their news from communist rags. And so it's barely starting to come out in the communist rags about myocarditis. We've known about it since the beginning. But we were called conspiracy theorists. They're not going to listen to us until they get injured and they go, oh, shit. Same thing with the Jehovah's Witness. They don't listen. So it's barely coming out in the UK Telegraph, barely coming out in the New York Times, and barely coming out in all these newspaper left-wing progressive organizations. Mm-hmm. So now maybe the Jehovah's Witnesses are going to read about it because that's all they get their news from NPR. They get their news from UK Telegraph. They get it from New York Times. Anything left-wing progressive, any atheist organizations or communist or Democrat organizations. So they won't get no information from us.
Correct. So going back to today's news, what did Jehovah know and when did he know it? And the reason we ask that question is because the hydroxychloroquine that they're talking about here costs 25 cents. Now it's like in Mexico, just when I went over there, they want to get $1 a pill. Used to buy it for 25 cents, but they're you got to shop around. But the one that got the Nobel Peace Prize, ivermectin, again, was about 25 cents. You go down to Mexico and get it. So we're talking about a pill that costs 25 cents. But Jehovah was selling a pill, an injection, that costs thousands of dollars per shot. And people are saying, well, Jehovah got a commission check. Jehovah had a parking lot where he was doing drive-by shootings. Literally, Jehovah was doing drive-by shootings. Literally. I'm not making up these words. Jehovah was doing drive-by shootings in his kingdom halls dedicated to him. And did he get any money? Where was Jehovah? And I would like to audit Jehovah.
You know what? Here's the thing. Let's talk about Jehovah, for example. I believe in God the Father.
Yes.
And many Christians hold the name Jehovah.
Correct.
Many Christians. And if I offend them, I really apologize.
Yes. Sorry.
But follow me on this. But we're talking about the Jehovah's Witness, the God of the Jehovah's Witnesses.
Correct.
Because they've taken it upon themselves, this name, where they call the Jews superstitious because the Jews don't use it. Maybe they have a little bit of respect. Maybe the Jehovah's Witness should have a little bit of shame and a little bit of respect and tone it down a little bit with Jehovah. Tone it down a little bit because you're full of lies and excrement and human debris and human excrement is what the Jehovah's Witness organization is. And you shouldn't use the name when you're doing false prophecies, when you're jabbing people, when you're taking political sides.
And money.
And money. And you talk about Russia, but you never talk about Ukraine. You're always quoting from the United Nations and the World Health Organization. You never, ever, ever have an alternative point of view.
You talk about how Russia steals your property, but you never mention how the United States has stolen hundreds of billions of U.S. treasuries from Russia, and how you, Jehovah's organization here on earth, have stolen kingdom halls, Menlo Park, from Jehovah's Witnesses, your very own brothers. So and this thing, listen, you mean to tell me that the organization that says they're Jehovah's organization here on earth, that the first of the 7 bowls of Revelation was the Cedar Point, Ohio Convention speech, that 1914-75, you mean to tell me that organization, that everything they said, that going to a prom, will diminish your status with Jehovah. You mean to tell me that they were wrong about everything, but for some unknown reason, they're right about God's name. No, no, no. I'm not going to play that game. Because
Go
you know
for
what? No, you know what? Fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. That's
And
just
because
my. And if I die and I get punished, I'm okay with it.
good. Because listen, if we're wrong on this subject, hallelujah. Glory be to God. Hallelujah. And let us be punished for it. Yes. But
Yeah,
God be the name of God be sanctified. But
yeah,
what we're talking about is the Jehovah of Watchtower, the one they're always
yes.
shoving down everybody's mouth. Because God's name is Jehovah means I have to be a slave to the Watchtower? No. Martin Luther King says when a man straightens out his back, he's going places. And God gave his son Jesus Christ to man. So Martin Luther King has a strong point. When a man straightens out his back, he's going places. And Watchtower will not tread on me. We have a right to tell Watchtower, go to hell. No, because God's name is Jehovah, I have to listen to retard Stephen Lett. And then look at all the gay looking metrosexual governing bodies you have now. They're not even men no more.
Mm-hmm.
They look like a transgender in drag, like a man.
Mm-hmm.
That's what the governing body, the new guys look like. They're not even masculine. They're not taking the form of men anymore. Look, here's what I was saying about the what you were talking about, stealing of the properties. That's exactly what I was saying. They criticize Russia for closing down Kingdom Halls or everything, but they don't take a look at the United States, how they've incorporated all of the checking accounts, all of the properties into a corporate name. When we were kids, it was all local. It was all owned by the local branches. They've taken everything. Don't they own a mirror and take a look in the mirror and look at themselves before they start criticizing everybody?
No.
No.
Mm-hmm.
No.
So why would our Jehovah's Witness sister and our circuit overseer husband? I mean, they're
Can't.
not. They're not asleep. They love. They're not asleep. This is why I don't subscribe to you guys and your theory of waking people up. No, they're not asleep. Jesus Christ addressed this very, very, very. He said to Peter that you must love me more than these little fishes. See, the problem is my sister Annabelle loves Jehovah's organization here on earth more than she does the babies, the little kids that got molested. It really is a love problem. And it's in the last chapter of John. Remember when he races to the beach and Jesus is cooking, and he goes, "Do you love me more than these?" He goes, "I have philia towards you." And he goes, "Do you have agape?" And then finally, when Jesus at the very end, he says, "Do you have agape for me?" And then Peter, his heart was broken because he didn't say, "Do you have a tender affection for me?" Philia. He said, "Do you have agape?" He changed the word because there's different words in the Greek language that translated love. Peter knew he needed to work on love. Love Jesus the way he was supposed to, because he loved the fishing business a little bit more. Jesus had just died, and Peter went back to work full time fishing. Ain't nothing wrong with that. It's no sin. But Peter loved those little fishes a little bit more than he loved Jesus. And that's where the problem is. Our Jehovah's Witnesses are not asleep. They just don't know how to love Jesus more. They don't. They won't admit it. But I did. I learned to admit it. I learned to confess. I remember this one girl. I forgive her, but she tried to say, she tried to rip in on me that my confessions here on YouTube are haphazard and self-aggrandizing. Whatever. But I still like her. But no, I openly confess. I was a worshiper of men. You have to confess. I openly confess that I loved things more or women more than Jesus. But when you love Jesus more than you love things or other people, then those people and those things are protected. The reason Watchtower is not protected, it's going to burn down, is because people love Watchtower more than they love Jesus. If people love Jesus, Jesse, more than Watchtower, Watchtower would be sitting on a great footing, a strong foundation. But that's just not the case. So what I'm saying to everybody here is this is why I am GG for GB and you're not. Because behind me it says keep it simple, stupid. And then in my voting ballot that you can get in Russian, in German, in French, in Japanese, English, and Spanish, and Portuguese, and Tagalog on ggforgb.com, I tell people that God is your father and you're his son, and just accept your birthday. Once you accept that and you love your father like we love our mom and dad, you love our father in that way, you understand it. Well, guess what? You're going to do things like I'm going to treat you and my brother Joe and Annabelle in a certain way. Why? Because I love mom and dad. I'm not going to do you wrong because I would be doing my mom and dad wrong. So now I understand the concept that if I believe that God is my father, then I have to treat everybody like my brother and sister. It's a simple concept. It's a very simple concept. That's why I keep it simple, stupid. You see? That's why I always say, if everyone is thinking like no one's thinking, all of you guys think, well, it's the Jehovah's Witnesses are asleep. You guys all think alike. But I, GG for GB, don't think like you guys. Hence, that's why I'm GG for GB. You see? And that's why I had to school you guys on this. But going back seriously, that's the point, Jesse. It really boils down to love. Keep it simple. The reason Jehovah's Witnesses can't answer this question is because they love their little organization more than they love their brother and their family.
Yeah, it's true. And you always say that never be embarrassed of Jesus Christ. Like a lot of ex-Jehovah's Witnesses, they're embarrassed of Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
They're like this, they don't even want to waste time with them. But look, Ronald Reagan said it. Keep it simple, stupid. He said, the problem with our liberal friends is not that they're ignorant. It's just that so much that they know that isn't so.
Mm-hmm.
There's a problem with our liberal friends. They think they know everything. And listen, I really believe, and I'm going to try to dissect this. I'm going to try to explain this real simple. I always talk about a curse.
Mm-hmm.
And I've always been obsessed by it since I was a little kid. Remember, back in the 70s, they discovered King Tut's tomb, and they took it around, and they talked about the curse of King Tut. And then when we were witnesses back in the 70s, we were always studying about the 10 plagues and the curses, the 10 plagues that befell Egypt in the time of Moses, which is real. Moses is real. But the 10 plagues, that's a little gift to XJW Jane Doe. Moses is real. The 10 plagues were real. The same thing, we always talk about the curses that are befalling Watchtower. Get out of her. Now, here's the thing. They're being cursed because of their political neutrality stance. Let me explain this. Mm-hmm. They're not being cursed because they're politically neutral. No. It's because they're not politically neutral. And whoever's running the Watchtower, I don't know who's running the Watchtower. I don't know if it's the governing body. But they're not politically neutral. You could see it by the decisions they're making. They're all left-wing progressive decisions. And because of that, because they lie to themselves, they really believe they're politically neutral. So they won't listen to alternative media. They won't listen to alternative voices. They won't listen to the apostates. They won't listen to their brothers, and they'll kick them out. If a brother has a very important point, very important subject on forgiveness, on the ransom, on any point of Christian debate or Christian thought, which is contrary to the governing body's teaching, he's going to be disfellowshipped. These men are not politically neutral. And for that, they're suffering the consequences that are going to befall, like the myocarditis and the pericarditis. Because they all took a politically motivated jabby yabby. And I think that's a curse that's going to befall on the Watchtower. Yeah.
This is what you're talking about. That's the Watchtower teaching. And then it comes right back.
Like a boomerang.
That's the boomerang. So
they're teaching that they're politically neutral. And, there's
Okay.
talk about maybe the draft coming back, and they go, no, we're politically neutral. And yet they're always citing from the United Nations, the World Health Organization. For example, they cite from Anthony Fauci, but they won't cite Rand Paul, which is the alternative voice.
Politically neutral. Now it comes back. And they get myocarditis. Because they're politically neutral, myocarditis comes back.
And you know what? It's not myocarditis per se. That was just one thing that's popular right now in the news. But there's so many boomerang effects. There's so many things. There's shingles. There's turbo cancers are going through the roof. There's sudden deaths. Every day in the news, there's sudden deaths. There's so many things affecting health. There should not be childhood heart attacks. There should not be childhood myocarditis. There shouldn't be so much Jacob's disease. There shouldn't be so many diseases that are showing up. Why? What has happened in the last 4 or 5 years that has increased the amount of turbo cancers coming out? Well, I'll leave that up to people to answer that. But shouldn't Watchtower, this is our point, shouldn't have Jehovah have told the Jehovah's Witness individual the risks associated with not doing your research?
Mm-hmm. Correct.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
They had to all follow blindly. Yeah.
Yeah.
And you know what, Gilbert? And here's the thing about political neutrality. If they would have really been neutral, think about it. Because our family, our brother's family in Jonesboro, Arkansas, 10, 20, 30, 40 years ago, they were all anti-jabby yabbies, huh?
Mm-hmm.
And then this comes up, and then we don't know if they become pro-jabby yabby. So maybe in the 40s, 50s, 60s, and 70s, they were really neutral, and it was up to the individual. But something happened in 2021, 2022, where they were forced to take it. And not so much forced, but coerced or talked into it. Where if they were really neutral, they would have said, you know what? We're not going to have an opinion on this. Everybody has to make their own decision. That would have been really neutral. But they didn't do that. They're saying, if you don't do this, you might not be able to go out and circuit overseer. You might not be able to give talks. Don't you remember? This stuff really happened. Don't you remember Anthony Fauci went like this when Donald Trump was talking? Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah, so that's the point. That's the question. What did Jehovah know, and why didn't he tell his witnesses that risks associated that we're talking about now in the news? Reporters are finally starting to report about it 2 to 3 years late. And how come the witnesses are not going to report on it? You know what? It's a good thing that cults shun. It's a very good thing that cults shun. Because can you imagine if our sisters could talk to us? They would run out the door. They couldn't handle it. I'm serious. If a Jehovah's Witness were to talk to an apostate brother or sibling, they might die of a heart attack. They can't handle it because they've only been fed one way. It's like a person who has atrophy. I really think the Jehovah's Witnesses have an atrophy of neutrality. They're so far left and progressive, like the New World Order. The concept of any alternative news could cause them to have a heart attack, a meltdown.
Yeah. Now,
their worldview, yeah.
I think it's Deuteronomy 28, and it's that chapter, and he talks about, he's getting ready to die, right? And
who's that?
Deuteronomy 28. Moses is getting ready to die.
Okay.
And he talks about how curses can come back on you. But in the Jehovah's Witness Bible, he says, you must choose life. But he goes, I have put before you the blessing and the malediction. I like that. I put before you the blessing and the malediction. And he goes, and you must choose life by loving your God. And here you go. Look, Watchtower chooses silence. Watchtower chooses not to listen, not to, listen to their brother or their sister, to shut people out. So through their silence, they're complicit, and for that reason, Jesse, they bring the curse upon themselves, and that's a good lesson for us too. We a lot of people say, well, I'm awake. I let the watchtower, I'm awake. Well, Bible talks about, I think the Apostle Paul says that those of you that think that you're awake, that are standing on 2 feet, be careful that you might not fall. So a lot of times, I'm not knocking for people that say that they're awake. What I'm trying to say is, the lesson is, when you think that you want to know it all, you think that you have all the answers, you stop listening to other people. So a Jehovah's Witness knows everything, and he's not going to read these. I'm not saying these people are telling you the truth, but they won't even give them the time of day. They won't give the apostates time of day.
Unless it's from jw.org. And here's
Yeah.
another thing, for example, we're about to go into another maybe pandemic with the bird flu. And only God knows what's going to happen as far as treatments. But the Jehovah's Witnesses are not going to look for alternative voices. They're going to look for jw.org. And what we're saying is that jw.org is a slanted leftist progressive organization. They even say it themselves. They're not a church. They're an organization. Who the hell calls themselves an organization? You have to be a communist to use that word. That is not a word as American citizens. Can you imagine America the Beautiful? Remember Ray Charles when he was singing America the Beautiful? Oh, beautiful organization. No, Americans don't sing that shit. We don't call ourselves organization. We don't call ourselves masses. We're we the people. We're I am king. Jesus died for us. We're human beings. Well, these idiots, they think that God is the organization, the governing body. It's the triune God to them. Jehovah, the governing body, and the organization, all one. It's a trinity of New World Order, neo-fascist religion.
Wow. So, Brother Time, did you think we covered it all? How did Jehovah not know? Where was Jehovah? Yeah. And where are the receipts at the Kingdom Hall on the drive-by shootings? Where are the receipts? Did he get paid and how much?
You know what? Let's talk about that just for a few seconds, and then we'll move on. I don't believe it. I don't believe it. I would like to see the receipts. I hope the Jehovah's Witnesses did not receive any money. I don't think they did. I really don't. Because that is something that could not stand. Because that's too much Judas Iscariot 30 pieces of silver. So if there was influencers who were receiving money, that would be okay with me. If you're like on TikTok or a person who's doing influence. But for a religious organization, a religious church, to take money, I don't think any American could stomach that. Because it borderline Judas Iscariot. So I don't think they took money to promote the jabby yabby. I just think they were ignorant of other methods of treatment. I really do believe they were ignorant of other methods of treatment because of their political neutrality. Pardon me?
No, you're absolutely right. Watchtower Bible Church Society of New York, Pennsylvania Corporation got money.
I can't believe it. I can't believe it.
I do, and some of the governing body members know, some don't. A lot of people, very few people. I would say that maybe 4 or 5 people know. That's just my opinion.
Yeah. State that's your opinion because it has to be wrong. It has to be wrong because that's a betrayal of. That's a betrayal. We can't receive money on testing of your brothers and sisters. You can't. No human would stand for that. That is not enough. Yeah, I know, but I can't.
These people, this wouldn't be their first rodeo.
No,
and that's just my opinion. Yeah.
As a Christian, death will be before us before we take money for testing our brothers. No, I just can't see it.
I'm not saying that. circuit overseers and no. I'm saying about 4 or 5 people who pull the strings in Watchtower, closely connected to the checking account. But that's just my opinion.
Yeah, my opinion is no. I disagree with that. Yeah.
I hope I'm wrong.
Yeah. You know what? That almost brings tears to my eyes. Just hearing such a no, can't. I believe they were chronically stupid and ignorant, like the dodo birds of the Galapagos Island. But no. But to receive money.
And one of the reasons I say that is because Watchtower always tells all the congregations, we have money on an account. You have money in account in Watchtower. They'd always use that phrase. We at the assemblies and the regional the kingdom halls that share property, they have money with Watchtower. So Mark DeAndo, the city overseer, would go up on the stage and say, we had $3,000 before we started the assembly. We collected so much. And we had X amount of money on hand with Watchtower, allegedly. It was supposedly like an account that you have. But we never saw a statement. Usually when you have an account with somebody, they send you a statement. So see, Watchtower has been playing bank with all of these circuits, all of these districts, and all of these kingdom halls that have mutual accounts. They're playing bank because they have an account with Watchtower. But it's interesting that every bank in the United States issues a monthly statement. Watchtower doesn't issue no statement. They took the money from the government for the jab. That's just my opinion.
No. Can't be. It's impossible.
Just my opinion.
We have to, you know what? Every once in a while, we at the GG for GB, we disagree. It doesn't mean that we're angry at each other. It just means that I'm right and you're wrong. That's all it means. It doesn't mean like that we're gonna fight over this. It's just usually my point of view is correct because I'm older and I have more experience. And you know what? That's good for people who are watching at home to understand that sometimes the governing body helper at the GG for GB is correct. That's what separates us from the current Jehovah's Witness governing body. They're a cult because the governing body is always correct. Here, occasionally, the helpers are correct. Yeah.
And nobody gets this fellowship. Yeah, nothing like that. Yeah. But one thing we do know that everybody in the chat's always wrong.
Yes.
Just kidding.
But you know what? They are wrong. They're wrong when the chat, but we elevate the discourse.
Yeah.
So we might agree with them occasionally.
Yeah. So
okay, Gilbert, that was the question that was burning today. You want to recap it in a simple, keep it simple, stupid? What was the question? Why did Jehovah? What did he know, and when did he know? Yeah.
When did he know it? And why? Why did he? I mean, if it's coming out, and even after Fauci's admitting it, how come Watchtower is silent? Like, you were listening to Fauci, but you weren't. But where was Jehovah? Why didn't Jehovah say, "Don't listen to this man"? Yeah.
Yeah, real sad. Yeah, situation.
Yeah. Hey, so you know what? I haven't put this video out in a long time, and it's Tuesday. Quite a few people are out.
We bring a little joy into your humdrum lives. It makes us feel as though our hard work ain't been in vain for nothing. Bless you all.
I like that. That'll drive some people upset, huh? If I brought a little joy to your humdrum life. Yeah. If anyone has a humdrum life, it's me. And you guys are the ones that brought joy to my life. But yeah, it's and some people believe it. Yeah, like, but no, it's the other way around. But
yeah. And you know what, Gilbert? One time somebody asked you, why do you do these videos? And there was never, if you could ever find that Nigel Farage quote when he was in the European Parliament. Probably about 10 years ago. He says, when you take a man's right to speak, when you take away a man's dignity, when you take away his right to vote, when you take away a man's freedoms, all he has left is to lash out.
I did a video on that years and years when that came out. It was about 5-6 years ago, 7.
Mhm.
Yeah, I did a video on that years and
And
years ago.
so the Watchtower has done that, and they treat us like a bunch of conspiracy theories, and they talk about misinformation. They don't quote Jesus. You let your yes be yes and your no be no. They talk about these misinformation and disinformation. They sound like if you were talking to some kind of secret organization, yeah, a spy agency. That's not what Jesus says. He says everything outside of that is from the evil one. That's all you have to know. There's either truth or lies. It's either black or white. It's either up or down, left or right. Not a misinformation and disinformation. That's from the evil one. You ever hear it? I mean, our language doesn't even have that. Can you imagine Shakespeare? Oh, Romeo, Romeo, where art thou? Don't give me thou this information. Can you imagine Shakespeare using that? Or the King James Version? For God so loved the world that he gave us misinformation.
Mhm.
Where is it in our vocabulary, in our vernacular, in the American vernacular? It doesn't show up until maybe when Kennedy got shot.
Yeah.
You know, it's either a truth or a lie. There's
Well,
no
that's
such
the whole
thing as
point.
misinformation. Yeah.
That's why I told you in private conversations. That's why we didn't. Barron Trump went to school, and he was forced to read Shakespeare. You and I were never taught to read Shakespeare, and the reason why is because when you don't have a command of the English language, they can manipulate you. Language is a weapon as well. Language is a weapon, and the more sophisticated your language is, well, you could use the language to mislead people, lie to them, confuse them. So make no mistake that the language. That's why Rush Limbaugh would always say words mean things. They don't want us elevating our language. They want us fighting like in a bar room, right? Bunch of brawlers using F words, expletives. They don't. They want us that because like that. They want to keep us stupid. But that's the whole point about language. Language is beautiful to God, but Satan uses language as a tool to put us
That
in chains.
that's beautiful
Misinformation
because
is perfect.
in John 1:1, in our Bible, in the New World Order, in the New World, it talked about in John 1:1, in the beginning was the word. But in the Greek language, it talks about the logos, the logos. In the beginning was the logos. And from that, we derive, in our language, we derive the word logical or logic. But one thing I learned about the word logos, it can never be translated properly into our language, Spanish or English. It can't. In a Western civilization, we don't have nothing like that word because the Apostle John was trying to convey something about Jesus Christ. He wasn't trying to convey that he was the son of Jehovah. He wasn't trying to convey that he's the brother of Satan. He wasn't trying to that he was some kind of created. He was the logos. And the logos in the old Bible, in the Old Testament, it talks about that God, he says, let there be light. Through the power of the logos, through the power of his spoken word, he was able to convey. So in the Greek word, when you have the word logos, it conveys thought and intelligence, like a divine quality, a divine existence, a pre-existence, is the way he used the word logos. But in the Greek word, there's also the word lalia. And that word is like the word spoken from like maybe a parrot or something that doesn't have thought. And so of all the words in the Greek language, why did the Apostle John choose that word? He was trying to convey that something before time and space, there was intelligent thought, there was intelligent, and it was this man, Jesus Christ, who before the creation was the existence of intelligent thought. It was beautiful. And so that's why it's so important that we understand the language. Words mean things. Without these words and the understanding of the words and without good command of the English language, we probably end up thinking that there's no Jesus and there's no Moses.
Yeah. And the last thing I was going to say, Jesse, is throughout for some reason throughout the whole video, your voice keeps going up and down depending on the thing, and I didn't say anything because I purposely wanted there's always going to be a percentage of people that are going to bitch and cry, yeah, And I love it because they're not worthy of this conversation. You know,
But
they're not.
I didn't understand. What you broke up?
Well, so sometimes when you're talking,
Mhm.
your voice sounds really loud, the volume, and sometimes, you know, you have to just pay attention because it's lower. So it's a mic issue, or like there's something obstructing, you know, or who knows. But there's a few people that, you know, they get triggered by that, and and to me it's different because if I'm listening to Jesus talk on the Sermon on the Mount, and I'm not going to be saying, Jesus, will you please use that microphone? So, you know, that's not me.
Our top story tonight.
Yeah, that's not me. That's not me. I'm just gonna listen harder. And that's the difference. See, that's the difference between me and those people that complain. And the people that complain missed out on the great topic that we discussed today on how did Jehovah not know? Where was he? And what did he know? And when did he know it?
Gilbert, I've been obsessed with this karma. And it's changed my life too, because I have sinned, and I have been mean to people, and I try to work harder, and I try to deliver a better product and service. I try to be a better husband, better grandpa, and I think of everybody that I affect. I try to be better. I'm going to try to be better and work harder and be better. Because one of the things I notice about karma, for example, I see it, and I explained about this, the curse that's happening to the witnesses, but it's happening everywhere in life. I start to study and meditate. Like, for instance, when we were kids, I remember 1975, or 1976, I was watching Saturday Night Live, and I told my wife at lunch, hey, watch this. And she goes, what? I remember this when I was a little kid, Chevy Chase making fun of Gerald Ford, President Ford. And I remember I was 7 years old, and I liked my president, Gerald Ford. I liked Richard Nixon. I don't know why. I was born a Republican, okay, a conservative.
Mhm.
I liked Eisenhower. My bike likes Ike. Remember when Henry Winkler
Yeah,
said, my bike likes Ike? So I was born this way. And they're making fun. And then I noticed that always on Saturday Night Live, they were making fun of Gerald Ford and Walter Cronkite on CBS News and Tom Brokaw and Peter Jennings. They're always making fun and calling Gerald Ford stupid, Richard Nixon stupid, Ronald Reagan an actor, Teddy Roosevelt a rough rider, a buffoon, Abraham Lincoln, Ulysses S. Grant were stupid. It was an actor. George Bush was a frat boy, cocaine head. Everything. This is the curse. It's coming on back. Everything. They were saying
Mhm.
that Gerald Ford was tripping. Where is Chevy Chase now? In 1975, 76, when I was a kid, he was making fun of Gerald Ford. Now we have a president actually falling down, and Chevy Chase don't say nothing.
Mhm.
Now we have a dementia, and the comedians don't say nothing. They were calling Abraham Lincoln stupid. They were calling Teddy Roosevelt a cowboy, a buffoon. They were calling Ronald Reagan an actor and that he's senile. Don't you remember they were calling him that? They were telling that George H.W. Bush was weak and ineffective. So what I'm saying is karma is not working out. So like all these people that were making fun of President Trump the other day because he got convicted,
Mhm.
and they're celebrating. Don't you think it's dangerous to be celebrating?
Yeah.
Aren't you afraid of karma? Because we're seeing it come. Remember, they were saying that George Bush was senile, Ronald Reagan was senile. What
Mhm.
about your president right now? Aren't you afraid of the boomerang effect?
Mhm. Yeah. So what we need to do is we need to get the revelation, its grand climax at hand. We need to get that book and go over it because all of the things that Watchtower said, it's going to come back on them.
And Gilbert, look, even that book is a karma. Look, they came out with a book called Revelation is Grand Climax at Hand, and they have a
Mhm.
masturbation problem in the Kingdom Hall.
Okay.
They have a pillow gate. They have pillow problems.
Let's say that one more time because this has to be like a clip. So Watchtower has a
Watchtower
revelation.
does this book. Revelation. Grand climax on hand.
And
then they suffer from masturbation problem. What happened in your congregation when you moved to Phoenix?
Oh yeah, the elder said that he didn't have the time to mess with me, and he had real problems in the congregation, and he started talking about the different problems, and one of them was young kids masturbating. That's it, the greatest, like the top 3 things.
Now you laugh at my argument. You're saying, Jesse, how the hell is this a curse? How are you putting the two together? Well, wasn't one of the 10 plagues? Weren't they warts and stuff that they were suffering from? And in another time in the Bible, didn't some of the in Elijah's time, wasn't it, that they suffered from warts down there? So there's precedence in Bible time. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So the boomerang effect. That's why we got to get the Revelation book. And if you have one, look through it. And yeah.
Remember we did that one time? You could just open up anything, point your finger at it, and it's a lie.
Yeah. Like speaking of boomerang, there was this, and we love her, but there was this woman named Jane Doe, right? And
Jane Doe, XJW, Jane Doe.
Yeah, and she was saying that Moses doesn't exist, or he's a fairy tale.
Yeah.
And now the boomerang came back, and nobody knows where she's at.
Yeah, she attacked us hard and vicious, and just when we were starting to get to like her, she disappears.
Yeah.
She reminds me of those old people that Ronald Reagan was trying to be friends with. Remember, they go, hey, were you ever close to the presidents of the Soviet Union? He goes, yeah, I tried to, but they were always dying on me. Yeah. Same thing. Where did she go? We wanted her to be friends.
Yeah, we wanted to be friends. Another one is like, remember when Mike and Kim called Jesus a misogynist? Whoa! But then he started drinking tea, and that boomerang never came back, so that's good. All we're saying is, don't go and fight Jesus Christ and call him a misogynist, because karma is a bitch.
She's on the prowl.
Yeah, don't do that. Don't do that. Don't do that. And if I say something, let me know. And say, Gilbert, you don't want that karma to come back on you. But I've said, like on the name Jehovah, I said I'm willing to pay the price. I said what I said, and I'm willing to pay it. But like you said, hallelujah.
That really haunts me because the divine name. It's an argument that the Jehovah's Witnesses started with Jehovah. They brought this into the forefront. For example, the Pledge of Allegiance, the Jehovah's Witness, and it's uncanny. And there's an irony. A lot of the things that we're facing today, like the Pledge of Allegiance, nationalism, globalism, can be traced to the Jehovah's Witnesses arguments. This thing about the God's name, I'm seeing a lot of people, they're obsessed with God's name. Is it Yeshua, Yeshua, Yahweh, Yahweh? And they think that salvation comes from the pronunciation of God's name. And the Jehovah's Witnesses started all this.
Yeah.
They're taking a literal interpretation of God's name. Yeah.
Yeah, they started it. I don't buy into it. But, I'll go back to Handel's Messiah where, was it the 1500s? I gotta look when it was. But Handel, when did Handel live? I don't know. But
in the 1500s? Or I don't know.
No.
Yeah.
But anyways, in it, it's remember Hallelujah, and also he lived during the Baroque period. Yeah, okay. So before he died, before the American Revolution, but Beethoven also his Ninth Symphony. So you have the Hallelujah. So that has greater. I have more respect for Hallelujah than I'm not afraid of Jehovah. Now Hallelujah is different. I'm very I don't even want to go there. It's holy to me, anyways. Jehovah, no.
Let me change it a little bit. Do you remember this morning we were talking about Abraham Lincoln, and we were talking about one of the great things that I remember about him when I was around Abe. I remember him talking always about the preaching work, preaching the Constitution, preaching freedom, and didn't he say that government of the people, for the people, by the people shall not perish. So he was always obsessed with teaching, is what I remember about Abraham Lincoln. And so I say to you, you should be teaching your viewers that you're always saying that the job of the viewers or the listeners is to make the host look good. So when you were asking right now, when did Hondo live? Don't you think a comment section could have looked it up and maybe interjected it? It goes, hey, Gilbert, it was in 1736, 1737. So can you spend a few minutes and explain what is the role of the comment section?
Yeah. It's like whether you're on the comment section or whether you're on those 6 screens calling. A lot of people call in the 6 screens or on the comment section, and they're not adding to value. Your number one job is to make the host look good. That's your only job, and that's how the show gets better. But a lot of that's why we call them trolls and stuff like that. But you'll see it a lot of times where, like, when you'll never hear me say hello on Rick Barron. He always introduces, okay, we got 602. I think it's Gilbert. He'll say that all the time. But you'll have all these other people. They're dumb, because they're the kind of Jehovah's Witnesses that went to the meeting and they didn't hear the announcement over and over and over. The second overseer is coming. The second overseer is coming. The second overseer, and then they go, "When's the second overseer coming?" They're just deaf, and so they call in the 6th screen. They go, hello, 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 hello. Like, do you not know that you're going to be called on? Dude, chill. But no, they're just not very smart. See, Jehovah's Witnesses, we were not the smartest people. Well, we were not the smartest. But because we listened to Rush Limbaugh, we got a little smarter, and we understand our role in when we call into these shows. Now, the problem, Jesse, that we had when we were growing up as Jehovah's Witnesses, we would go to the Kingdom Hall and we would listen to all this stuff, and this is what happened to us.
Mr. Madison, what you just said is one of the most insanely idiotic things I have ever heard. At no point in your rambling, incoherent response were you even close to anything that could be considered rational thought. Everyone in this room is now dumber for having listened to it. I award you no points, and may God have mercy on your soul.
Okay, a simple wrong would have done just fine, but
you remain one.
That was us as Jehovah's Witnesses. We got progressively stupider the more that we.
The light might have got brighter, but the bulb got dimmer.
Yeah, we were just
All right, Gilbert, man, we're up on an hour.
I know. Let's go. We'll see you guys on the next one.
Okay, Gilbert, talk to you later, man.
All right. The next one. Who's going to be our guest? None other than Anthony Morris.